Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneur Experts Cafe, sponsored by Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel. I'm Kimberly Hobshide, your host and the creator of the Facebook community, Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel, a community by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, helping entrepreneurs and experts get their business to the next level. Come join the community at entrepreneursrocketfuel.com/Facebook and join the conversation. Today, I'm actually going to interview one of my favorite people, Paul Vann. Paul is an expert on wealth building, but he's got a great history and a great story of how he became an entrepreneur. Paul, welcome to the Entrepreneur Experts Cafe.
Yes, Kimberly, honored to be with you, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to this, and we're going to share a little bit more with the listening audience, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So Paul is a lot of fun. He's got a great story. He is an entrepreneur and helps entrepreneurs really build wealth and do it in a way that is respectful of mindfulness and making sure that they show up in the world in a really powerful way. Is that right, Paul?
That's absolutely correct, Kimberly. And one of the ways that I do it is to work directly with the clients, be they leadership or on the staff of the leadership, and helping people to better understand the importance of being in the now, also to understand how to improve their leadership skills. And in that process, they become better, excellent, what I call leaders, bringing out the excellence in them as in the leadership staff, management staff, as well as the employees, and upping their productivity for the well-being of the organization at large.
Awesome. So you work with entrepreneurs, but you also work with people who have organizations, employees that work for them, larger scale entrepreneurs, bigger businesses. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. And being able to give them exactly what they need. And of course, that's problem solving. We want to solve some problems for them, getting the organizations to work properly. The communications, of course, is key. People in the organization have to be able to communicate great. They have to look at the productivity. We want to focus on the retention of the employees as well. Right now, that's not really a problem. However, we know that things are going to change.
Sure.
And people are going to get back to work, and things are going to settle down and get stabilized. And our process and my process is to help them have a organization that aligns under its mission statement and its values.
Oh, perfect. Well, I think that's really important, especially if you're a larger organization with employees, but it doesn't matter when you're just starting out, you want to be sure that you're in alignment with yourself, in alignment with your own personal values, and doing what you really love to do and bringing what you need to into the world. Do you feel that way?
I feel that way, Kimberly, and bringing the passion and the purpose in there together and combining them, and so people can be the best that they can be. I was watching a quote the other day, reading a quote the other day, and talked about it's not about being better than anyone else, but it's about being better than we were yesterday, and trying to focus our energies on being better tomorrow when we're given that opportunity.
Oh, I like that a lot. Nicely said. All right, so tell us a little bit about your background, because it's so interesting. I mean, you haven't always been an entrepreneur, right? You actually worked in, I won't say corporate, because it was actually you worked in government. Is that correct?
Yes, actually it's both, but I'll start out first with the government aspect of it. It goes back to when I was in college. That was just a couple of weeks ago. No, a couple of years ago. And what happened, I ended up being commissioned a second lieutenant into the United States Air Force. And I came on active duty. I served for 20 years in various leadership positions, starting in Ohio. And then I went to Atlanta for about a year doing financial work. And I did cost analysis, budget analysis, financial management, managed programs, for example, in California, in Northridge, for about $3 billion. I was about maybe 21 years old. And so I went out to the management team out there, and I talked to the president of the company, and we were interested in two things. Two things we were interested in: can this company, can they conduct and perform the budget within schedule? And can they stay within the budget? Yes or no? And so we did a complete analysis of the corporation. I have to take that information back to the three-star general and let him know whether or not we should go forward to take care of the taxpayers' dollars. And we were able to do that. So I'd say that was very successful.
Wow. And then, so when you were in your earliest career, under 25, you were already dealing with millions and millions of dollars of wealth and evaluating whether or not companies were going to be able to perform.
Yes, the contract. Yes, and on the behest of the taxpayers to make sure that the monies were properly appropriated for the work that was the task that was at hand. And I was given a team of about 12 consultants to work for me, which was a lot of fun. And we were able to get the work done with no problem. And then after that, I went to Atlanta. I worked in an accounting firm for a company called National Data. All you have to do is look at a medicine prescription and you'll see NDC on there, and that's the company. So I
Wow.
went down there with another military officer, and we put an automated system in place so that they can get the medications and everything out on a more streamlined basis. And then after that, I went to St. Louis, and I worked for a military Air Force organization there, and I did acquisitions work for them. And that turned out to be very, very wonderful. And then at about the 8-year mark, I was recruited by Mobil Oil Company in Texas, in Houston, in Beaumont, Texas. And so I actually separated from the Air Force for 2 years as a captain. I worked for Mobil Oil Company as a financial analyst and went down and took care of the monthly income reports, audits. We purchased corporations, small oil corporations in New Orleans area, Chalmette, Louisiana, to be specific. And then I received a call one day from this colonel in the Pentagon. He said, "Hey, we'd like to bring you back on active duty." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "When would I be assigned?" He said, "The Pentagon." I said, "The Pentagon?" And it was on after that. And I was waving goodbye to everyone at Mobil,
Oh my gosh. What a
heading to the Pentagon.
story.
Yes. And then I was in the Pentagon for 12 straight years. And
Wow.
it included working in foreign military cells. So we have a little training programs for different countries. And I would negotiate with the countries and their embassies here in the Washington, D.C. area. And then I started getting involved with legislative work. And then I found out that was really my thing. I
Oh my,
really enjoyed it. I loved it because it was involving people and
yeah.
members of Congress and the different lobbyists, everyone. And I would actually prepare the generals, the 3- and 4-star generals, to go on Capitol Hill to testify before the House or Senate Armed Services Committee. And so I would get a chance to meet everyone there. And so we would do what was called skull sessions. I would prepare the general for what he needed to say. And of course, it's broadcast on television, live television. And so I did that for several years. And then the opportunity to go into what's called the Capitol Hill Fellowship Program, I was selected for that. I went in, I worked in the U.S. House of Representatives. I worked for Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who was out of the 1st District of Rhode Island. And I worked on his, he was on the House Armed Services Committee, so I handled all the legislation from him, all the Veterans Affairs issues, and it was just really an assignment of my dreams. It was truly amazing. And I was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel when I was on Capitol Hill at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Fascinating. So you've seen it all, sort of inside the Beltway and outside the
Yes.
Beltway. You've been in the trenches. You were there during the Pentagon, or at least you
Yeah.
were at the Pentagon when, were you assigned there when the strike?
Yeah, yes, in fact, I was. In fact, 2 weeks prior to that, I had flown to Australia because I knew I would be retiring in a couple of years. I went to Australia for my birthday. I spent 2 weeks there, and I went to the Goodwill Games, which is a mini Olympics of sorts. And so I went to Brisbane and Sydney, Australia, and spent 2 weeks there. And the night I came back, I almost stayed an extra week, and I decided to come back on as scheduled. Flew through Los Angeles, back to Baltimore. My bags, I couldn't get my bags. That was odd. And then I went home and I went to sleep. And I was really tired because it's about a 23-hour flight. When I woke up the next morning and I turned the television on, and I thought I was watching some movie about the building being knocked down. And they said, "No, that's New York and the Twin Towers." And so at that point, I was really sick. I went to going to the medical center. And as I was on my way there, they told me that the Pentagon had been hit.
Wow.
And so then it went into a state of emergency,
Mhm.
and everything was on lockdown, and the world just changed. And now, of course, we know with COVID-19 that is similar, but yet even more lethal
Mm.
than 9/11.
Mm.
So
That's a really
yes,
good point. That's a really good point,
yes,
because it can be so sudden, and we had some
yes,
time to register this one, right? But you're
sure.
right. In some ways, it is
It's,
much more lethal. Yeah.
it's more lethal. And the news coming out today is that there is a mutant strain from COVID-19 that's even more deadly. Yeah. And so the way it ended up, I ended up retiring 2 years later. I went to do contract work for a couple of years. And then after that, I decided to go into professional speaking.
Okay.
And the way it happened, I went through the transition workshop as I was exiting the Air Force. And the consultant asked me, well, Paul, what are you going to do after you retire after 22 years of service? I said, well, I want to be a professional speaker. I had seen my mentors. I saw Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, who was my favorite.
Mine too.
And I saw them, and it was on. And I just kept telling everyone, well, I want to speak. I want to speak. And I left the contracting firm. And one of the people I used to work with, she went to a new corporation, new company. And she said, hey, we're looking for a speaker. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, hey, that sounds great. So they brought me to lunch. We sit down and talked about it. And they said, well, hey, we have this 12-city speaking tour coming up. Can you do it? I'm your man. I'm it. I'm it.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I went on that, and I went to Hawaii, Montana, Seattle, Guam, Texas, Florida. I went all over the United States. And that's how it really started for me.
Well, I love that you're speaking now, and I love that you're bringing attention to really important aspects and sharing what's really going on in the background. How did you get switched over to the Wealth Building Academy? So tell us briefly about that.
Yes, well, what happened, I always knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur because at the age of 10, my parents opened up a small family grocery store in our hometown in North Carolina. And I was volunteered, not really. I was told that I would work in the store.
We call that
yeah, I was voluntold.
Yeah.
And so from the age of 10, I was stocking shelves, taking in produce and canned goods from the vendors, and going to school. And after school, I didn't really have any after school activities other than work. And I was an unpaid staff. So after about 5 years, I decided I wanted to play football. And my dad said, you play football or you have to leave home. So I said, well, Dad, I'm going to take the other option. I'm going to leave home. So I went to stay with my grandmother, his mother.
Wow.
and really that gave me more responsibility at the age of 17 that I otherwise would have had. And then my dad, of course, became my #1 fan. I said, well, Dad, you can't be my fan. Remember, I couldn't play football. And so what happened, I knew that at the end of my years in the military, I wanted to do something that was totally different. And entrepreneurship was it. It is the key to be able to live out your dreams. It demands a vision, it demands clarity, it demands planning, it demands everything that a person has. So I knew that entrepreneurship would be it. So I came up with the name Wealth Building Academy, and it's a professional development company. And I provide of course, the speaking, the training, the coaching, as well as authoring books. So that's really, really how it came about. But it really keeps me going every day. Without being an entrepreneur, I don't think I would enjoy life as much. Because
well, I think I heard through the story that you retired 3 separate times. I'm glad that you're not retired yet, because we need you out there in the world helping entrepreneurs get to their next level. That's what I'm all about, and doing it in a way that's respectful of their time and attention, but also respectful of who they are and how they show up in the world. And I love the message that you bring.
Yes, I think it's very important, very important. And I echo what you state, is that in order for us, and we know that most small businesses, maybe 98% of small businesses, depending on the size, but it gives people an opportunity to get out there and to be problem solvers. We solve problems for the clients, and that's what's most important. And right now, we can solve a lot of problems for a lot of companies once they get back online.
Yeah, I love it. All right, well, very cool. We are just about at time, so I want to wrap up. But before I let you go, how can people get in touch with you? How can they work with you if they're like, yep, Paul's my guy. I want to work with him. He needs to give me some mindfulness coaching and to help me with my wealth building. How can they work with you?
Yes, Kimberly, and thank you for asking. They can get in touch with me by going to my website, which is www.paulvannspeaks.com. They can contact me toll-free, 800-341-6719. And they can also get me on an email at info@paulvannspeaks.com.
Awesome. So that's Vann with 2 N's. It's Paul Vann.
2 N's.
P-A-U-L.
Yes.
P-A-U-L-V-A-N-N.
And spaks.com. That's
Perfect.
correct. Yes.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. You are just an amazing force in this world with so many layers, so much in your background. And I know every entrepreneur has stories to tell, but sometimes they're bigger than others. And I really, really love your story. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, any final
Sure.
words for our crew of advice from you?
Yes, and my advice to everyone is it's never over until you decide that it's over. As an entrepreneur or in a personal life, that never give up, never quit, and it takes a burning desire, as Napoleon Hill wrote in his book. In order for us to live in life, it takes more than desire. It takes burning desire. And that burning desire means we're going to burn the bridge behind us, go forward, move forward, and accomplish the mission at hand. And that's what I recommend to everyone. Never give up.
I like it. Burn those bridges behind
Burn
you.
those bridges.
Yes.
Yes.
It was actually a military strategy, as I recall. That's how that came.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kimberly Hobscheid with Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel and the Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. We're super glad to have you with us, and we'll see you again next time. Cheers. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thank you.